Hi all, myself Professor Isometric, Engineering Sciences Department, ASSLS, Institute of Information Technology, Pune. In today's session, we'll learn dimension guidelines. In this session, we'll have some of the rules of dimensioning. Every time we should apply some of the concepts of the dimensioning when you are drawing some diagrams. On that diagrams we should mention to some size and shape, to mention that size and shape, about its feature, about the size. So we should know the dimension rules. In the dimensional rules, the first dimension rule is dimension should not be duplicated or the same information given in the two ways. If you see the on the right hand side, I had drawn the one of the object, and that object is drawn in the 3D form, and in the same way on the left hand side I have drawn the 2D diagrams. So there are this diagram, the views are drawn by first third angle method of projection. If you see the diagrams clearly, this is incorrect way of dimensioning. The rule says that they should not be, dimension should not be duplicated, means the over dimensioning is not allowed in the different ways. So if you find the 0.75, it is shown in the above the top view as well as in the uh, bottom view, that is the front view. So red color indicates that the dimensions which are shown are over dimensioning. So in one view, you should mention the dimension of the object or the views. The over dimensioning is not allowed. And this is the correct way of dimensioning. You can say the same figure is there and the dimensions are shown in one of the way, one of the view where the maximum dimensions are captured. So 0.75, 1.5, 2.0, 2.0, and the same way in the side view the dimensions may be repeated. That's why that dimensions or those dimensions are not shown, and this is the correct way of dimension. So in the first rule, over dimensioning is not allowed. Then second rule, no unnecessary dimensions should be used, only those needed to produce the inspect part. No unnecessary dimension should be used. Unnecessary dimensions should not be shown. So if the if you see this view with the top view, so this top view says that the overall dimension of the overall length of that particular feature or this component is 2 mm, and the it is divided 0.75, 0.75, and net is zero point 0.5. So the dimensions are repeated again. So this is incorrect way of dimensioning. So you should show the correct way of dimensioning. Either now I will show the correct way of dimensioning. You can say that 0.5 mm is not mentioned here. The 2 minus 0.5, 0.75, 0.75, that is 1.5. You will get directly 0.5. That way you should show the dimension. Again on the right hand side, the 1 and 0.5, remaining 0.5 you can calculate. So such kind of unnecessary dimensions you should not show on the diagram, so that diagrams will be easily readable. Next, third rule is dimension should be attached to the view that best show the contours of the feature to be dimensional. So dimension should be shown in the way of dimension. There are two ways of dimensioning. One is chain dimensioning and second one is a parallel dimensioning. In the top view, if you see the third angle method of 0.75, 1.5, and 2.0, this is called a parallel kind of dimension, and those should be shown in the diagrams in the parallel. This is the incorrect way of dimensioning. So you can see the point 0.5 and that 1 mm dimension is already shown. So it says that dimension should be attached to the view that best show the contours of the object. In one of the views, you should show the dimensioning so that it will be clearly mentioned. This one, and I will show the correct way of dimensioning. See, in the previous diagram, it is 1 and 0.5. It is not mentioned in the front view, so it is confused to the reader to what kind of dimensions will be these for these particular features. So in this diagram, if you see the correct time, 0.5 and 1 mm is mentioned on the surface features, or you can say the adjacent part of the view. Next is portrait whenever possible or avoid damaging to the hidden lines and features. So whatever hidden lines are there, we should not show the dimension to the hidden part unless it is required. So some of the hidden parts are there in the complicated parts. So we should not show those dimensions to the hidden parts. So in this diagram, it is shown, it is simple part. In the side view, they have mentioned 0.75 with respect to the hidden or dotted line as 0.25. It should be avoided if it is a simple component. So the correct way of dimensioning, you can say the maximum dimensions are shown in the front view 0.51, and the four dimensioning or dimensions which are not shown with respect to the hidden line. Dimension shown with respect to the visible part, that is the 0.5. In the previous case, it is shown 0.75 with the dotted lines. It should be matched with the visible feature. Then next rule about is avoid dimensioning over to the object. So if you see, it should not be shown dimension inside the object. It is 1 mm. It is mentioned inside the object. This and the dimension lines with the arrowheads are crossing each other. So this is not the correct way of dimensioning. Dimensions should be shown. You can see the red color indicates the all the dimension 2 mm, 1 mm, 0.75 mm, 1 mm. Those dimensions are crossing each other, and this is incorrect way of dimension. It may confuse to the readers. So the correct way of dimensioning is this: 1 mm, which is shown outside the view, 0.75 mm, 1.5 mm, the same components which are in progress of parallel kind of dimensioning and which are not shown inside the object. This is correct way of dimension. Another rule: a dimension should be attached to the only one view. For example, extension line should not connect two views. What is extension line? In this diagram, whatever the lines you are showing with respect to the dimension lines, those are the extension lines. And the extension lines should not be attached to the views. It should be separated from the views from 1 to 2 mm approximately. So this is incorrect way of dimensioning. So dimension lines, you can see the front view and top views extension lines are connected together. So these kind of features, the two views you cannot add together, which is edge views. In the front view and top view, they have attached with the dimension 2 mm. In this case, the top view, front view, and the side view dimensions they have shown. This is incorrect way of dimension. You have to show the extension line with respect to that view only, not to connect two views by using extension line. The correct way of dimensioning is this way. The two views are not connected with the extension lines. Separated, those dimensions are shown in that video. So whenever possible, locate the dimension. Next rule is the whenever possible, locate the dimension between adjacent views. So we have to show the location of the surfaces or the features. So make a location to locate the dimension, maybe the some surface or the holes or the chamfers or the corners. So with respect to those features or the corners, holes or whatever the surface, we should show the dimensions. So thus you can see the red color indicate that the dimension lines or location of the dimension lines of with respect to the adjacent lines, they are crossing. So it is not incorrect way of dimensioning. The correct way of dimensioning is this. We should show the dimension with respect to the surfaces or the corners or with respect to the uh, uh, location dimensions. So we can make the difference between the incorrect way of dimensioning and correct way of dimensioning. In the correct way of dimensioning, we find the dimensions are easily readable and understandable. So next would avoid crossing the extension lines, but not to break them when they do cross. So you can see the extension lines in this diagram. So these arrows is called you can say the dimension lines. This zero point 0.5 is the dimensional values, or 1.5 is the dimensional values. Other dimensional values are placed perpendicular or in between the dimensional lines, and those dimension lines are mentioned with respect to the corners as the extension lines, and those are the extension lines are crossing each other. These are crossing each other. Multiple extension lines are crossing uh, each other, and in such cases of the component, it may confuse to the reader wherever the extension lines are crossing each other. So correct way of dimensioning is this. You can find whenever possible, avoid sending extension dimension. So show the separate way of dimension. We should not mix together the two adjacent parts. Okay, so the correct way of dimensioning is this. Then 10th rule, in general, circle is dimension by its diameter and arc by its radius. Always see that whenever you are showing any circle or hole, it should be mentioned by the diameter, by both the arrow. If it is arc, you should mention that arc by using radius. You can see the 3D figure of this particular diagram. It is called isometric or pictorial view, and these diagrams which are shown down, this is the front view and this is the side view. In the side view, they have shown circle with the 5.5 through, means it through means it is throughout the its a width, throughout its a width, and diameter of that circle, 5 means diameter, 5 means diameter, the diameter is d is equal to zero point 0.5. In most of the diagrams, we are going to represent the diameter by using letter 5. This is the letter 5, and for the radius r. In this case, the width of this component is 0.75, and this hole represented through represent 0.50 mm diameter hole is throughout its a 0.25 width. So we have to mention the circle as a dimension by using diameter 5 or the diameter d. Arc radius or arc you can mention by using radius r 0.25, etc. Then holes are located by their center lines, which may be extended and used as extension lines. So where the location of exactly holes. So those holes we have to show by using the extension lines. If the two holes are there, then we should mention that location of that holes. You can see this is the hole which is located from left side 1 mm and from the one side top side it is 0.5 mm, where you can drill or you can make the hole of 0.5 mm throughout. So this indicates that where if you want to manufacture this kind of products, we should show the location of the holes, and that is the rule. Holes are located by their center lines, which may be extended and used as extension lines. This is the rule of showing dimension to the holes. Holes should be located and sized in the view that shows the features of the circle. Okay, so here you can see the incorrect way of dimensioning. So the dimensions are shown 0.5 mm throughout, and it is not shown the dimension to the circle. It is shown in the side view. Shown in the side view. So it is the incorrect way of dimensioning. So we should show the dimension to the circle or the hole as per the rule, that is the location. We should show the location from the corners, as well as we show the diameter for that particular hole, not in the adjacent views. So this is correct way of dimension. Location of the circle is shown by green color, and also the circle diameter is shown. So this is the correct way of dimensioning. The 13th rule is do not cross the dimension lines with the extension lines and avoid crossing the dimension with the leader line. What is leader line? So you can show the leader lines are used to show the dimensions of the holes. You can see which is the convention of the dimension line, leader line, which are always 30 to 45 degree inclined with the baseline, and which are inclined with which are shown with respect to the feature. So you can see the 0.5 mm through is the diameter of the circle, that is the throughout the shape, and this leader line, this is the circle line with leader line crossing the extension lines with the dimension lines as well. So to avoid the same thing in this picture, your dimension line as well as the extension lines and the leader line should not cross each other. You should show the feature dimension separately, not crossing by not crossing the your extension lines and the dimension lines. The correct way of dimensioning is this way. So you can see the location of the hole is shown, and the leader line which is not crossing the dimension lines as well, with the extension lines. You can see that which are shown separately, arc as well as the your diameter of the circle or the hole. 14th rule is the leader line. You know the leader line. Leader lines are always shown by inclined line by 30 to 45 degree standard angle with respect to the baseline with the arrowhead. So the leader lines are pointed towards the center of the feature and should not occur horizontally or vertically. So in this diagram, the left hand side, the correct way of showing the leader line, and on the right hand side, you should not show the leader line vertically or horizontally. Always show the leader line with respect to the hole or the arc by using 30 to 45 degree standard angle with respect to the baseline. So this is about 14th rule. The 15th rule is about the dimension numbers should be centered between the arrowheads, except when using stack dimension, and the number should be staggered. We can see that this is the stake, the shaft, the 3D component is shown, but in the 2D diagram, the 3D components dimensions are overlapping, and it is not able to see clearly. So how to show the correct dimension? They have said dimension number should be centered between the arrowhead, not vertically. The correct way of dimension, you can say the previous one and the next correct way of dimension. It should be separated in between the two dimensions. Two dimensions should not mix together for the whole. You should show the diameter of that particular circle or the holes separately. This is correct way of dimension. Okay. Then concentric circles are dimensional in the longitudinal way whenever practical. So there are certain cases where we are going to show the dimension lines in the concentric way. So in this case, you can see the feature. This is incorrect way of dimensioning. So you can see the diameter of that particular circles are shown randomly. So concentric circles should be dimensioned in the longitudinal way whenever possible. So you can see how how that particular correct way of showing dimensioning. So longitudinal way, you can see the 1.5, 2.25, and 3 mm are shown the dimensions of that concentric circles in the longitudinal way. This is correct way of dimensioning. Thank you. This is all about, we have learned about the some of the dimensioning tools. In the next sections, I will be showing the dimensioning tools, how it will be implemented on a certain diagrams. Thank you.